Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. Compel by coercion, threats, or crude means. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. He walked along the railroad track. Supply with railroad lines. Railroad the West. Transport by railroad. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. The road consisting of railroad track and roadbed. Line that is the commercial organization responsible for operating a system of transportation for trains that pull passengers or freight. A line of track providing a runway for wheels. He walked along the railroad track. A course of reasoning aimed at demonstrating a truth or falsehood. The methodical process of logical reasoning. I can't follow your line of reasoning. A slight depression or fold in the smoothness of a surface. His face has many lines. Mechanical system in a factory whereby an article is conveyed through sites at which successive operations are performed on it. A connected series of events or actions or developments. Historians can only point out those lines for which evidence is available. The road consisting of railroad track and roadbed. A conceptual separation or distinction. There is a narrow line between sanity and insanity. A succession of notes forming a distinctive sequence. A conductor for transmitting electrical or optical signals or electric power. The principal activity in your life that you do to earn money. He's not in my line of business. Make a mark or lines on a surface. Draw a line. Often plural, a means of communication or access. Lines of communication were set up between the two firms. The descendants of one individual. His entire lineage has been warriors. Space for one line of print, 1 column wide and 1/14 inch deep, used to measure advertising. A short personal letter. Drop me a line when you get there. A telephone connection. Be in line with, form a line along. Trees line the riverbank. The maximum credit that a customer is allowed. A particular kind of product or merchandise. A nice line of shoes. A pipe used to transport liquids or gases. A pipeline runs from the wells to the seaport. A commercial organization serving as a common carrier. Acting in conformity. In line with. A formation of people or things one behind another. The line stretched clear around the corner. A formation of people or things one beside another. The line of soldiers advanced with their bayonets fixed. A fortified position, especially one marking the most forward position of troops. They attacked the enemy's line. A length, straight or curved, without breadth or thickness, the trace of a moving point. A mark that is long relative to its width. He drew a line on the chart. A single frequency, or very narrow band, of radiation in a spectrum. A spatial location defined by a real or imaginary unidimensional extent. Cover the interior of. Line the gloves. Fill plentifully. Line one's pockets. In games or sports, a mark indicating positions or bounds of the playing area. Mark with lines. Sorrow had lined his face. Persuasive but insincere talk that is usually intended to deceive or impress. Let me show you my etchings as a rather worn line. Reinforce with fabric. Lined books are more enduring. Something, as a cord or rope, that is long and thin and flexible. A washing line. Text consisting of a row of words written across a page or computer screen. The letter consisted of 3 short lines. Any road or path affording passage, especially a rough one. Computer science. One of the circular magnetic paths on a magnetic disk that serve as a guide for writing and reading data. Travel across or pass over. Go after with the intent to catch. The act of participating in an athletic competition involving running on a track. An endless metal belt on which tracked vehicles move over the ground. A course over which races are run. Evidence pointing to a possible solution. A distinct selection of music from a recording or a compact disc. The title track of the album. A line or route along which something travels or moves. The track of an animal. A bar or pair of parallel bars of rolled steel making the railway along which railroad cars or other vehicles can roll. A groove on a phonograph recording. A pair of parallel rails providing a runway for wheels. Carry on the feet and deposit. Track mud into the house. Make tracks upon. Observe or plot the moving path of something. Track a missile. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. A railway having a single track. Conducted with or marked by hidden aims or methods. Underground resistance. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. A secret group organized to overthrow a government or occupation force. Under the level of the ground. Underground caverns. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. Small railway in an amusement park. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars. Relating to or operated by a cable. Funicular railway. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. An underground tunnel or passage enabling pedestrians to cross a road or railway. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. Of high moral or intellectual value, elevated in nature or style. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. Increased in amount or degree. Raised above the ground. An elevated platform. Angular distance above the horizon, especially of a celestial object. A railway that is powered by electricity and that runs on a track that is raised above the street level. Railway for steep mountains. A cogwheel on the locomotive engages cogs on a center rail to provide traction. A hollow cylindrical shape. Anatomy. Any hollow cylindrical body structure. An electric railway operating below the surface of the ground, usually in a city. In Paris, the subway system is called the metro, and in London it is called the tube, or the underground. Conduit consisting of a long hollow object, usually cylindrical, used to hold and conduct objects or liquids or gases. Electronic device consisting of a system of electrodes arranged in an evacuated glass or metal envelope. Convey in a tube. Inside Paris, they used to tube mail. Place or enclose in a tube. Provide with a tube or insert a tube into. Ride or float on an inflated tube. We tubed down the river on a hot summer day. A railway up the side of a mountain pulled by a moving cable and having counterbalancing ascending and descending cars. Railway for steep mountains. A cogwheel on the locomotive engages cogs on a center rail to provide traction. A barrier consisting of a horizontal bar and supports. Enclose with rails. Rail in the old graves. Criticize severely. She railed against the bad social policies. Complain bitterly. Separate with a railing. Rail off the crowds from the presidential palace. Spread negative information about. Travel by rail or train. They railed from Rome to Venice. A bar or pair of parallel bars of rolled steel making the railway along which railroad cars or other vehicles can roll. A horizontal bar, usually of wood or metal. Any of numerous widely distributed small wading birds of the family Rallidae having short wings and very long toes for running on soft mud. Convey, goods etc., by rails. Fresh fruit are railed from Italy to Belgium. Fish with a handline over the rails of a boat. They are railing for fresh fish. Lay with rails. Hundreds of miles were railed out here. Provide with rails. The yard was railed. Short for railway. He traveled by rail. A short stretch of railroad track used to store rolling stock or enable trains on the same line to pass. Lay aside, abandon, or leave for another. Switch to a different brand of beer. Control consisting of a mechanical or electrical or electronic device for making or breaking or changing the connections in a circuit. Reverse, a direction, attitude, or course of action. Cause to go on or to be engaged or set in operation. Switch on the light. the act of changing one thing or position for another. His switch on abortion cost him the election. An event in which one thing is substituted for another. Make a shift in or exchange of. First Joe led, then we switched. Exchange or give something in exchange for. Change over, change around, as to a new order or sequence. A basketball maneuver. Two defensive players shift assignments so that each guards the player usually guarded by the other. A flexible implement used as an instrument of punishment. Flog with or as if with a flexible rod. Hairpiece consisting of a tress of false hair, used by women to give shape to a coiffure. Railroad track having two movable rails and necessary connections, used to turn a train from one track to another or to store rolling stock. Railroad track having the standard width of 56.5 inches. A short stretch of railroad track used to store rolling stock or enable trains on the same line to pass. Material applied to the outside of a building to make it weatherproof. A glove with long sleeve. A form of punishment in which a person is forced to run between two lines of men facing each other and armed with clubs or whips to beat the victim. To offer or accept a challenge. A glove of armored leather protects the hand. The convergence of two parallel railroad tracks in a narrow place. The inner rails cross and run parallel and then diverge so a train remains on its own tracks at all times.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.